We are going to give it just another couple minutes, let people join, and then we'll talk about this answer hour. Thank you. All right, it's 12:01. We'll get started, and as people join, again, for those of you who know me or not, I'm Brad Morse, the program director for this campus project, and with me I have Angie Andreessen, who is the business analyst for the project. So we will again do this answer hour. Again, this is a general answer hour, and we'll start this in just a second. I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. First one is that this is going to be a recorded session, so if people can't attend, the recordings will be made available. The second is if we want this to have a dialogue, and we want please put your questions or comments in the chat, and we will address them. We've been having a good success with these answer hours, and your help in finding some of the issues or some of the deficiencies or just some parts of the system where we can improve. We've been able to start incorporating and actually getting some of this stuff done. So with that, I will start the answer hour and let you know kind of where we're at and what we're going from. Let's do the. So we had an update. Actually, this is old. We had a release just last night. So the slide is a little out of date, but we had a release just last night. So we'll give you an update on that. We'll talk about some known issues. We'll have a Q&A. And then I think what we really are focusing on are these upcoming answer hour sessions that are specific to the different groups that are, where we can get into specific issues that different stakeholders are having or questions relating to particular stakeholders. So we'll do that. Next slide. Okay.
Brad, I apologize. The updates on here from the 11/13 release, but we can certainly touch on some of the 11/19 release as well.
Yeah, let's touch on the 11/19 release. Angie, I know you had kind of a summary of them. You want to just kind of read off what the summary was, and then I can talk out what the impacts are on that.
I apologize, I was on mute. Yep, just a second here. I'll just kind of read through some of those high-level updates. So some of the updates that we made, and I apologize, I didn't have time to pull these into a slide. There were some issues with attorneys unable to pull disputes out of draft status. That should be resolved. This is a big one that was kind of showing up for everybody. This is not specific to attorneys, but we have resolved the issue with confirmation emails and group administrator emails showing an incorrect group administrator. So you should no longer be seeing that. There was another issue with documents attached on dispute forms. Those were being created as parent documents instead of child documents. We've resolved that. Let's see here. A really big update for the attorneys was the calendar. So external users were unable to access the calendars. There were some notice of appearance access things. So I think that was limiting you to 5 years, and now that can go beyond that. And now the ability to schedule pollings should also be functional. So that is just a high level. That's not everything for the attorneys, but I pulled out some of the high level items that I know for attorneys generally. For the insurers and the trading partners, we were getting some EDI errors, particularly with being unable to insert. It was an error throwing unable to insert null messages. That should now be resolved. There were some people that were getting unauthorized on the claim payments tab. We had some filter functionality that wasn't working with the related claims and cases tab. That should now be resolved, as well as the filtering on the My Rehab Cases tab. Let's see here. A few other EDI ones. We were having some EDI specific issues with DN 416 being less than the MTC date or greater than the MTC date. There were some issues with IP doc gens showing the incorrect employer. And then finally for QRCs, there was the filter functionality that I already touched base on. We did have members that were not moving to active after registering with campus, so they were getting stuck in your pending. I think that was occurring across various groups, so that should be resolved now. And then there were also some issues with RCRs. In some instances, when you were saving those as draft, they were not pulling back up from draft status. So that is now resolved. I'm going to go ahead and get back into my slides.
Yes. Appreciate that. So I know we have some questions coming through. So do you want to let's answer some of the questions real quick?
Yeah, for sure. When this is for rehab providers, when can we expect to have access to our rehab cases?
Yeah, so we had the survey close at noon on I believe Thursday or Wednesday, but we closed the survey, and when the survey came back, a lot of providers were unable to provide us with all the information needed. So a third of the cases are not associating based on that information. So we are doing a manual run with about 8 or 9 people in the department to go through there and get those associated. As soon as that is done, we will then be able to have everybody see their cases. Because this is a large mass import, we actually have to have it all done at once so that we don't have any issues like we had last time. So that being said, because we are having to do a third of these manual, I say a third, it's roughly a couple thousand cases that we're associating manually. There may be some issues Monday, because this will be done by Monday. If anybody sees something in there that doesn't look right, please let us know. The team is working diligent, and we are using a lot of DLI staff to do it. But again, they are manually looking at the cases and associating now because we were unable to get all the data in the survey.
Thanks, Brad. There were a couple of questions here. This is specifically from an insurance and TPA person. There's a claim showing an employer that is different than what was showing in the system. How is that to be corrected, and how do we prevent that in the future? So I can actually speak to that one. So we do have specific employers that are going to be linked to the federal tax ID numbers that are supplied on your EDI filings. So what will happen on these claims, if you are submitting information, make sure that you're submitting the correct employer name as it shows in your system. What will happen is the parties tab will still show that base employer that we've got, the name of the base employer, but there should also be an employer name linked for your location. I can see really quickly if I can find an example of that in one of my test claims, just so you guys can see what that looks like. But we will have that information in our system as you submitted it. It would just depend on how you'd be seeing it specifically. I'll see if I can find an example of that.
Yeah, and this one is really a change in having things faced to the public because of the fact that employers now also can get accounts and look at their information. And we had a lot of holdings companies and a lot of large employers that have multi different corporations that they wanted to be able to see those claims. So it goes based on the tax ID, the FEIN number that we cross-reference with our Department of Commerce. So that's where we're getting that entity from. But of course, when you're filing, sometimes you don't have that information. You're using their FEIN with maybe the name that it was given to you. XYZ with this fee, and it will show, like Angie said, in the claim, but it does link to the employer based on the FEIN.
And I did just go ahead and pull up an example of this in my test system. So you can see here when I look at the employer tab that I've got Blizzard Construction. So up here, this is going to show the name that we have on file for that entity. It's kind of our master data. Down here is going to show this reported location name is going to show what you all report via EDI. And additionally, that should be what is populating on those forms that are generated for you all to serve back on the employees or to send. So in this instance, obviously, we see that it's the same name, it's Blizzard Construction. But if I had called it something else, that name would be displayed right here. So that's just a place for you all to check if you just want to make sure that you have the correct information in there. And we've got a couple more questions here. What is the difference between a stakeholder and a trading partner? So a stakeholder is just kind of how we refer to everybody who is an external user of campus. Our trading partners are specifically going to be entities that submit filings on behalf of an insurer or a claim administrator. So that's kind of a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, I use the term stakeholders training. It's everybody that's in it's an attorney, anybody in the legal community, an employer, an injured worker. You're all stakeholders for the department, and you have.
Brad, your audio is breaking up. We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, stakeholders is a general term that we use just to cover anybody that conducts business with the department or is involved in the workers' compensation system.
Thanks, Brad. There's another question here. When will the pending registration issue be solved? I believe that was to be fixed in the release last night. So if you're still seeing that issue, please let us know. There's a question, when will we be able to see anything in campus? I may just need some additional details on that one. Are you planning on putting some training videos on how to file each specific form? Stacy, can you specify what forms you need some training on? And we can certainly either point you to some resources we've already got, or we can put some together. There was a question about the insurer address not filling on forms that are created in campus, EDI forms. I believe that we have that documented, but I will follow up on that one for sure. You should be able to just serve it. If you don't have that address, you should just be able to serve it. But typically, we're going to pull that information from what is submitted on your EDI filing. What email will notify me to register if I'm pending? I am still not allowed. So it sounds like you may still be experiencing the issue with the pending the user's getting stuck in pending status. So I will look into that one specifically for you, Kayleen. Brad, this one is for you. Will we be publishing the release notes for this release to Campus Central or the website? And if so, when?
Yes, we will. We'll put them in a more usable format than what we have now, and then we will get them onto the Campus Central page. Usually there's about a 1 day delay on that, so they should be out there by Monday. But I will take a check to make sure they're getting done. Like I said, the release notes, it has a lot of the technical stuff in them, so we want to make sure that it's usable and we'll understand it.
Thanks, Brad. This is a feedback item and a question just for the rehab forms. They're wondering why the drop-down menus are so long and why there are so many options. An example was the levels of education on the R2 form. There are too many options and it is cumbersome. Just wondering about and I think the document type was another one. Asking if it is necessary to specify the document types. I don't know, Brad, if you'd like to speak to that one.
It definitely is necessary to specify it, but we are getting feedback that there's just too many. And this is something that does come up during these sessions that, sometimes when we design things and we're designing it, it sounds great on paper, but in practice, it just doesn't work very well. And this is one of those cases. So we are taking feedback on that of how to pare those down. And those will be things that, after we get the system stabilized and everybody's, starting to file, we're going to start to pare those down with doing some more deploys.
Thanks, Brad. There's a question here, just any plans for training on program? So for that one, maybe just need a little bit more context on what kind of training you're needing. If you could just add a message, that would be great. There was a question about filling out salary continuation forms without listing a specific payment. So in those instances, you should be completing what is called, and this is specific to EDI people, so I apologize, you should be completing what is called an EP transaction, an employer payment transaction. That should not require a payment. If you are attempting to submit it on your IP transaction, the system will require a payment because it believes that you, the insurer, are creating that first payment. So that may be your issue. I know that specific person, I did send you my email address, so please feel free to reach out if you have additional questions. There was a question on amending a medical request and how that is done. So that is definitely something that we can take into consideration for demoing during one of our next answer hours. I believe that there may be a reference video on that one, but I am not 100% sure, so I will check on that. Okay, so the question, I think there was a question on filling out every single e-form potentially. We can potentially look into training for that. Just as a kind of a segue, the existing forms with DLI, like the NOPLD, the NOBP, those things are all encompassed by EDI transactions now. So for many of you, you likely are just submitting those through your EDI vendor now. If you are not, if you're doing e-forms, you would just fill out your e-form processes. We do have a training that is for e-form users that we can certainly put that link in the chat. And that should provide some additional information as well as some of the documents that kind of explain the edits in the required fields. So we're struggling to figure out which forms need to be filed in different situations. There is a form to MTC crosswalk document that we have created, and that's going to kind of tell you what instances a form should be required, like when you should look at each form type, what is encompassing or what is replacing our old forms as well. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat really quickly. Another thing with that I just want to touch on really quickly as well, there are a lot of people who are having trouble understanding the difference between FROI and SHOR URs and when those would need to be filed. I'm going to go ahead and put our FAQs in the chat as well. Number 7 goes through URs. The next one, how do we serve MMI for a 0%? On the email confirmation when a filing is submitted, can the document number be on the email to specifically link the email to that document? So that should be occurring. So if you're not experiencing that, please send it our way.
Yeah. Hey, Angie.
Yeah.
And we got notice today that that's happening for people, and we knew it was happening for legal assistance because of they weren't associated to the case, but we've been hearing from the help desk that people are calling about that. So whoever wrote that, Angie, can we get these specific examples of what's happening so we can see what's going on there?
Yes. So Stephen, if you wouldn't mind just sending me an email, we can kind of figure out what's going on specifically. All right, and then as far as the question about serving MMI, so you would not actually serve MMI through the system. You can actually just serve that in the way that you would normally have served it before campus, and then you may upload it to the claim after you have submitted it to the other parties. So would not be served through campus. You can just upload a copy to us after the fact by using the other filing button. So I've got another one here that the QRCs are showing up as pending registration. Deb, I think I already have an email for you in my inbox, so I will respond to you on that one. And then as far as each individual QRC granting access to the files for admin staff, I believe, Brad, I'm going to let you speak to that one. Will the related support staff have access to those claims when we upload them into campus?
That's something we have to check on because we know, like, point forward, it happens with the RCR. The problem we're having is because these support staff for both the legal community and for QRCs were not ever a party in Informix or in our old system. It's not, there's no association for the legacy data to link them backwards. So we're looking at what we can do about that. It does sound like it's going to be some type of an improvement that we can make, but we're, like I said, we're trying to get everything stabilized before we make any of those type of improvements.
Thanks, Brad. As an insurer already set up for EDI submissions, do we need to file FROIs and SHROIs in campus? No, the answer to that is no. If you are submitting those via EDI, you do not need to submit them via eForms. There is a list of supplemental web forms on that form to MTC crosswalk document that I added in the chat. You scroll all the way to the bottom of that page, that would be kind of the list of documents that you may need to submit in conjunction with those EDI transactions, as well as just the other web forms like the disability status report that doesn't have an EDI equivalent, or just even documents that you may need to upload in campus.
And just to clarify that, EDI filings are actually filed in campus. They are just done through a different, where people don't have to log in, but they are still, when you file something through EDI, it is showing up in campus.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification, Brad. All right. what reference material is available for how to submit NOIDs, NOBPs, etc.? So again, that kind of piggybacks with what Brad was saying. If you are an EDI submitter, those are going to be sent through your EDI vendor. So again, those forms in their current state don't, or in their previous state are no longer accepted. They have EDI equivalents as outlined on that form to MTC crosswalk. I did go ahead and post a training for our e-form submitters in the chat as well. So if you are an EDI submitter, please disregard that training. If you are somebody who is an e-form submitter who logs into campus and completely data enters your transactions, that would be a great reference video for you to watch. All right. There was just a question about training. I'm going to go ahead and just put our training link in the chat. And that has a number of recorded trainings. Wendy, if you still have questions after that, please contact us and we can look into additional trainings. For claims that are in the system for a period of time prior to WorkComp Campus, now we need to file a new updated state form, which specifically, do you need and why, if it should already be in your system. Brad, do you want to kind of explain the UR process and why we need that?
The UR process stands for update report. So what that does is anything that was filed in the old system, it needs to be updated to fit with the new standard. So the update report does that by, once you submit it, it then allows you from that point forward to continue filing in the EDI standard. So if you have something that is active, you need to file the update report because the filings need to come in EDI. For instance, if you had something that's, was filed, you had your FROI and your payments right before campus went live, then after, there was you still need to continue filing something with the department. You can't send that in paper or anything. You need to do the update report for the FROI, do the update report for the SHROI, and then that way it will give you the ability to submit those filings, because without it, you wouldn't be able to sequence your filings.
Thanks, Brad. All right. All right, I'm seeing just some additional people that are showing up, are still saying that their people are showing as pending registration and they've not been moved to active members. So we can definitely look into that a little bit further. Anybody who is already registered should no longer be listed in that pending registration.
I am wondering though, Angie, if we need to have them clear their cache.
That is possible.
So yeah, we'll look into that and maybe send out an email blast if that's the case.
There was a question about how to update permissions via for QRC specifically. So I'm going to just create a really short reference video on how to update permissions for individuals of different groups, and I can certainly get that posted to our website. All right, if I file a FROI of a prior FROI from 2 years ago, does your system pull all the prior state forms that have been filed if I need to file a new state form? Yes, you would need to do your FROI UR and then your SHROI UR, and then you could file the EDI equivalent of whatever you need to submit to us at that point. Brad, I'm going to toss this one to you. There are still some issues with populating the QRC clients and cases. That is correct, right?
Clients and cases.
For rehab providers.
Yeah, like the survey we sent out. Yes, that's why we're working on it, and we should have those available Monday. and then have you be able to check them, and then we can start the filings then.
Great. There's a couple questions here just about other filings and the options that should be used for maximum medical improvement. I believe a lot of people are just indicating that either as a correspondence or a medical record, and then just adding a description that it is a service of MMI. There was another question just about what forms could be filed through the other filing. So that would just be like supplemental information you want to send to the department. Medical records would be a good example of that. If you try and submit like an NOPLD in its current or in the previous format, something like that would not be accepted by the department. It would not be considered filed if you uploaded it through the other filing. But if you do click into the other filing button, if you are on a claim details page, there should be a list of documents that displays once you're in that actual upload platform. So there are quite a few.
Unfortunately, I know we're at time right now, so I want to get to at least the last slide where we have answer hours next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for every particular stakeholder group. And obviously, I think everybody's going to be off Thursday and Friday. And then we will start doing more weekly answer hours with every individual group. We're adding in a group for the people that are doing all the account management. Angie, what's that group called?
Yep.
The administrators.
Yep, we went ahead and we scheduled. So we've got these 3 answer hours, and then and I apologize, this is our December calendar. Their rehab providers are on Monday. Tuesday is our law firms and our insurers, TPAs, trading partners. And our Wednesday one is going to be specifically focused on EDI. Each of the answer hours on Monday and Tuesday does have an additional 30-minute segment, and that is going to be specific for group management for that group type. We got some feedback that people wanted it to be more specific. So those invitations should be have been sent out. They should be on our website as well. So I see we do still have a few questions in the chat here. So I will do my best to try and reach out to people, or we can work through answering these questions in our next answer hour.
Again, I thank you everybody for your patience and your time, and we will send out some more information, but we look forward to talking to you on Monday and getting some of these answers for you. So with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. I think we have a couple of meetings that we already have starting right now, so we will we'll let you go, and we will talk on Monday. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.